speaking for myself, I think that once I stepped into the bush, I found that my universe contracted to what I could see and hear and smell around me and nothing more. Even events and things taking place at our platoon base seemed remote and distant in a way. As for what other units were doing, that was beyond my knowledge. The affairs of civilian life just paled away into insignificance, and as far as what was happening on in the rest of the world, one couldn't care less. All you were concerned about was the ground in front of you, and the only relative control you had over that was how much you could cover with your weapon and how much of it was in range of it. And so you lived in this environment. You hunted your enemy, or he hunted you. Sometimes you found him, sometimes you didn't. Sometimes people would be wounded, people would be killed on both sides. And that was your understanding of bush warfare. Nothing beyond that. There was no bigger picture. That is what the war consisted of to us who were combat fighters. And so it was always a bit of a surprise now and then to be reminded that there are more than one ways to skin a cat, and certainly more than one ways to fight a bush war. And so it happened on one particular day that we stumbled across some spoor, probably a day or two old, and it was heading along a footpath toward a distant village. And more out of curiosity than anything else, we decided to follow it. People had walked over the spoor. It was eliminated here and there. Cattle had been driven down this footpath as well. But nonetheless, here and there we picked it up, and we came to an isolated hut standing on a bit of raised ground just on the outskirts of this village in a large clearing. A very picturesque place, I must say, as I remember it. The ground sloping down to some low-lying land, a flay in the distance, cattle around, huts dotted here and there, people going about their daily chores and work, distant mountains on the horizon, and of course the beautiful blue Rhodesian sky. As we got closer to this dwelling, I could now see that we had some good spoor here, ground spoor, and it looked like the tracks of about 6 people. And it was heading straight for the hut. One of my African soldiers said to me, "Sir, I think we should not go any further. This is the home of the big Mondoro of this area." Let me just say that the Mondoro is a spirit medium, and the terrorists, if they had the opportunity, would always consult with people like this. We called them communists. They called themselves communists. The whole world called them communists. But I'm afraid that ideology with our brand of terrorist ran barely skin deep. They were very far from being people who didn't believe in the supernatural. In fact, the whole rebellion against the white man started in the 1800s through mediums just such as this, who declared that the spirit world wanted the Europeans thrown out of the land. And since then, hundreds and hundreds of white people have been murdered in order to try and bring that prophecy to fulfillment. But of course, I wasn't going to be put off by any cautionary word from my troops, and so I made my way around the side of this hut, and then found a doorway there with an old man sitting in it. He was draped in a black cloth, and I greeted him, as I remember, respectfully. It was my way, and I got no reply, which was rather astonishing, because our people are very polite and very friendly, and good manners are a part of one's dignity. So, I didn't make a big thing of it. I asked him, if he was aware that there had been visitors here a few days ago. Could he tell me something about them? I got no response, nothing, just a look of insolence. And he sat there with a ceremonial cane in his hand. One of the soldiers came a bit closer because they were certainly keeping their distance. And by now the adjacent huts had fallen silent. There was no perceived movement. Everybody was standing watching to see what would unfold before them. And the soldier said to me, "Sir, let's just rather leave things alone. This man is very powerful here in the area, and we don't want to offend him." So I said, "No, I'm not bothered about that. Just I'll speak to him a bit longer, and then we'll see what comes out." I just need to say for a moment that, and I don't want to labour the point because I don't want to necessarily bore you with this kind of thing. But what you and I would have seen there would have been a picture postcard scene. You know, the sort of thing I described to you a little bit earlier. But in reality, what the villagers around there saw, and my black troops as well, for that matter, was something entirely more. They saw what you and I would see, but they saw something else that we couldn't, and they didn't see it with their eyes. They see it here in their mind. They see it in their imagination, but it's as real to them as though it was something they could reach out and touch. They see spirits. They see spirits in front of us, spirits behind us, spirits on either side of us, spirits sitting on the thatched roofs of the huts looking down at us, spirits peeping at us from behind rocks, spirits that live in holes in the ground, spirits that live in the river, spirits that live in the pools, in the forests, in the mountains, in the caves, spirits all around. Spirits of departed people. Now, some of these were, in their mind, benevolent spirits, like the Mzimu, who existed for no other reason than to help living people. And then there are many different types of evil spirits emanating from all sorts of reasons. Some that have wandered into the district from other areas, who don't have a place of their own. Other spirits that have been grievously wronged when they were alive as human beings and go about seeking vengeance. And so there's this mishmash of human spirits and animal spirits, and all of them are aware of what is going on in this world. And not only are they aware, they have a great influence on what happens. If these spirits are troubled or unsettled or restless for any reason, the effect will be seen in the physical world, according to their religion. And so it is very important that at all times the spirits be kept happy. Now the thing is this, that the common African has no way of communicating with his spirits, absolutely nothing, except through the good offices of the spirit medium, such as the one that was now seated here in front of me in the doorway of his hut. He is the man that they go to when the rains don't come, when the crops fail, when there's sickness in the village. And he's the one who consults with the spirits, finds out what is wrong, what is bothering them, and comes back and tells the people. And then they put that in effect. Sometimes they would have to slaughter a cow and brew beer and have what you and I would call a roaring party going on through the night with beating drums and everything else that goes on in celebration of some particular spirit or other who feels he's been neglected. And then that is supposed to help out. So the Mondoro is very powerful. He calls the shots. And when the terrorists come to him, he will give them advice, and he'll say, this and this and this is what you ought to do. Don't go there, go there. And in many ways, he and his fellow spirit mediums scattered around the country are really prosecuting the war from behind the scenes. I asked him again, would you mind telling me who visited you here in the last few days. And he turns away and he mumbles something that I can't hear. So I thought, well, let me cut him a little bit of slack. After all, he's got an audience here. There are villagers standing, not exactly within earshot, but they can see his body language. He's not going to speak to me. He won't speak to me in any case. In his mind, I've stolen his land. I'm keeping his ancestors away from the people. So it's not likely he'll say anything to me. But maybe if he was taken somewhere privately and he was questioned, he may just let something slip by accident, and that may be of some use. So I decided what I would do is I would have him arrested. So I radioed the platoon sergeant, asked him to send 2 trucks, and duly these 2 vehicles arrived. I then said to the Mondoro, I'm placing you under arrest. You'll be taken to the police special branch and they will want to speak to you. So I want you to get up, please, and to get on the back of one of those trucks. Well, it was just more insolence. So I said, do you understand what I've asked you to do? You're under arrest. Please get on to the back of one of those trucks. He turns his head again, and this time I think I hear what he's saying. And it's like something to the effect that I've got 2 words for you and one of them is off. Well, I wasn't going to accept that. He might speak for the spirits, but I speak for the state. And at that point the state said, get up and get on the truck. So I reached forward, and I'm surprised that he didn't see it coming. After all, he's supposed to predict the future. I snatched that cane out of his hand, and just to get his attention I gave him a good resounding whack on the side of the head. Well, it wasn't intended to knock him unconscious or anything like that. It wasn't that heavy a blow. But he certainly reacted to it, jumped to his feet enraged, and I thought you can get cross if you want to, but just stand there, don't you take any steps toward me, because you'll soon find out how much water comes out of the barrel of a gun. So behave. And I said, get on the truck now. So he walked over to the truck, and I was about to follow him when something made me think that I should look inside that hut. So I bent forward to go into the doorway, and my men all started shouting out in alarm, please, please, don't go in there, come out, come out, come out, that's very, very bad to go in there, while you still can, come back. I don't listen to things like that. So I went inside, and I've been inside many huts, more than I can ever remember. But I saw something inside that hut that I've never seen before and I'd never seen since. In the center of this hut was a round grave. It was raised up quite high, almost half a meter, if not more, above the floor of the hut. And this too was draped in a big black cloth. It was the grave. It's the grave of his ancient ancestor who's buried there, whose spirit now lives inside him, and he is the keeper of this shrine, if you like. The rest of the hut along the walls was, as far as I can remember, in the gloomy light that I could see, just the usual paraphernalia one would expect in a home like that. But next to the grave was a clay pot, and it was quite a large object. I picked it up. It had a lid on the top of it, which I removed, and then I held it so that the light coming in from the doorway would stream inside. And I looked inside it, and I thought, hello, this is quite remarkable. To think that an immortal spirit, hundreds of years old by all accounts, dating as far back to the kingdom of the Monomatapa, who's now living inside this man, should have need of what's inside this jar. This is really remarkable. And it was as though the mist of my understanding cleared a little bit. All the smoke and mirrors that these people perform, I thought I detected a crack in the glass. Anyway, I put it down, where I found it. I left the lid on top of the grave because I knew he'd be back at some point, and I wanted him to see it there. I wanted him to know that I had been inside his clay jar. I also wanted him to know, Mister, I do not represent a race of thieves. We didn't come here to steal your country, and I haven't come here to steal anything that belongs to you. You can check. So I walked outside. By now the Mondoro was sitting on the back of the truck, and all my guys are sitting on the other truck, every single one of them. So I said, come on, man, we can't all ride on one truck. What if there's a vehicle ambush? Come on, some of you move over to the other. Black troops don't want to move. As always, my American MAG gunner, a wonderful man. Nothing ever in this world got him down. He clambered off the truck where he was, took his MAG and all his stuff, and then climbed on the back there with the Mondoro, slid across the seat, right up to him, pushed up against this man, looked him in the face, gave him a big smile, and then he drawled, "So, friend, how's your day been so far?" And in return he got a scowl, a really angry look. I climbed on the back as well so we could get going, because it seemed like nobody else was going to listen to me, and I didn't feel in the mood for pulling rank then. And so we drove off, and every now and then I would glance across to the Mondoro and I see he'd be looking at me. I was getting the evil eye big time. I was getting daggers. If looks could kill, I would just fall dead on the back of that truck. We arrived at the platoon base. I told the driver, take him to the police, to special branch, and wait there for orders. And he disappeared. And later on he came back. I walked up to him. I said, what happened? He said, I don't know. I got there. They spoke to him in private. He wasn't there inside very long. He came out with a packet of sandwiches and 2 bottles of beer that the cops had given him, and I was told to take him home and not harass him. So I thought, well, now that's so interesting. And you know, I think I should tell you what I found inside that clay jar. And maybe all of this might make a little more sense. I found inside that jar, stacked like cigars, rolls and rolls and rolls of nice new blue Rhodesian banknotes. Each of them about the same size. It looked like each one held about $100 with an elastic band around it. I didn't touch them, but I just looked and I counted them very, very quickly and tried to estimate how many layers there were of them. And it seemed to me that it was probably about the cash equivalent of what for me would be maybe 3 years' salary. So to find that kind of money in a poor village like that is really remarkable. I don't think those people that lived there in that village, between all of them, could have scraped together $20, quite honestly. And yet here was this relative fortune, absolute fortune, for one man to have in a jar, in a hut like that. And of course it made me wonder. It made me wonder. You know, the Rhodesian government was no stranger to smoke and mirrors, and they were aware, well aware, of the influence that these Mondoros scattered around the country had. And so I would like to ask you a question. In view of everything I've said, do you think perhaps that money was a payment to him, a regular payment that came? And do you think perhaps that money came from the government itself? And if that's the case, do you suppose that I might have inadvertently whacked one of our own agents on the side of his head? Well, if I did, I gotta say, I'm sorry, man, but you played your part too well.